Mothra, Queen of the Monsters.
Number 30. Kumonga. This 8-legged menace is every arachnophobe's worst nightmare. Shortly after being awoken from a deep slumber, Kumonga immediately established itself as a tough kaiju. It menaced humans, tied up monsters, and even brought Godzilla to a brief standstill. Kumonga was also crafty enough to play dead so it could unleash a devastating surprise attack. But even if the monster hadn't lifted one of its 8 legs to attack Godzilla, it would still be one of the most unsettling kaiju in the franchise. The hair, pincers, and movements are horrifyingly realistic. Kumonga's scary look and intelligence make him eligible to be a main villain in a modern film. However, we are extremely glad that Godzilla scorched this spider when they first met. Number 29. Ebirah. When this sea monster first appeared, it only needed to use one of its big, meaty claws to wreck an entire boat. After Ebirah's intimidating introduction, it built up its reputation by bashing and even eating any human foolish enough to swim into its waters. But the large lobster wasn't just a danger to ordinary people. Once Godzilla came into its territory, Ebirah showed off its impressive strength, coordination, and speed. Since the Big G typically dominates in the water, it was fun to see him grapple with an aquatic threat that knew how to navigate the sea. Ebirah ultimately couldn't beat Godzilla in a straight one-on-one, but we still have a soft spot in our heart for this chaotic crustacean. Number 28. King Cobra.
A snake? Worse, a King Cobra.
Throughout the 1998 animated Godzilla series, a ton of creatures tried to knock the kaiju down a peg. The spiky King Cobra definitely stood out as one of the most unique challengers. This kaiju could spit a sticky venom that would hold its enemies in place. Once its opponent was glued to one spot, King Cobra could get the kill with its teeth or simply crush the life out of its foe.
Oh, I know how you feel.
The sly snake almost clinched a big win by attacking while Godzilla was blinded by sticky venom. Although King Cobra lost during his debut, the vicious monster slithered back into the series several times. The big snake had some serious staying power. Number 27. Ion Dragon.
Whoa! Are you alright? Oh, Jesus Christ! Go back! Go! Oh my God!
Nearly every sailor on the USS Lawton perished after this creature swooped down on their ship. When the sole survivor returned to the boat's wreckage years later, he discovered that the Ion Dragon was just as fierce as ever. The kaiju could easily rip steel apart with its impossibly sharp claws. As if that wasn't frightening enough, the Ion Dragon possessed the ability to spit slime that can slow down or shut down enemies. The wind generated from its wings can also knock people off their feet. While the MonsterVerse Godzilla is tough enough to take on an Ion Dragon, anyone who comes face to face with this Sky Dragon without backup better hope for a miracle.
Can't anything ever be easy?
Hey, get back here!
Number 26. Scylla.
Moscow, London, Washington, D.C. all under attack.
Since this tall monster stands at a towering height of 331 feet, it immediately caught our eye when it first appeared in the background of Godzilla King of the Monsters. The creature's tentacled and long frame made it look like a slender Cthulhu on stilts. Although Scylla spent her MonsterVerse run as a minor kaiju, it still pulled off some big-time feats. A graphic novel revealed that it personally caused a nuclear meltdown so it could absorb excess radiation. Upon finishing its radioactive meal, Scylla decided to stomp through Rome. The hulking monster's reign came to a harsh and decisive end once it encountered Godzilla. While Scylla is unlikely to return to our screens anytime soon, we will not soon forget about this tall terror.
With no other exit to release this pressure, the entire shell of Titanicilla bursts open, spreading her blood and cooked organs all over the surrounding terrain.
Number 25. Zilla. After the live-action American Godzilla bombed in 1998, it seemed like that version of the kaiju would completely fade into obscurity. But the monster was brought back for an excellent gag. During Godzilla Final Wars, the titular kaiju is forced to fight off legions of monsters. One of the alien antagonists becomes convinced that the Big G would meet its match when it faced Zilla. The villainous monster was designed to look exactly like the lackluster 1998 version of the lizard. Just moments after Zilla attacks, it's easily taken down and killed by the main character. This brief and hilarious scene served as a great way to nod to an embarrassing part of the franchise's legacy. Number 24. Shimo.
But Shimo, if reared up, can look down at Ghidorah and bite off its 3 puny heads with one chomp.
There are a few impressive icy creatures hidden under the surface of the Monsterverse. The Frostvark stole the show whenever it made a chilling appearance in Legacy of Monsters. However, the coolest ice-themed creature has to be Shimo. When we first met this frosty giant, it was being forced to obey the Scar King's orders. It instantly gave Kong a case of frostbite that was so severe he needed to wear a special gauntlet to keep fighting. Shimo's icy breath, large size, and strength gave Godzilla a ton of trouble. Fortunately, the frigid behemoth was freed from Scar King's control and froze her bad boss solid. We hope she returns to chill with Kong and Godzilla in the future.
We discussed how a titan like this could already dispatch lots of different kaijus.
Number 23. Moguera. Originally, humanity built this metal titan so they would have a way to keep the Big G in check. To their surprise, they had to send it to battle SpaceGodzilla instead. The mecha had the ability to divide itself into 2 independent sections. When the 2 halves were combined, its powerful crusher drill, missiles, and numerous cannons could keep kaiju at bay. Moguera's tough exterior and ability to bounce back from severe damage allowed it to keep returning to the fight. Without this mecha's help, SpaceGodzilla may have completely taken over the Earth. It'd be great to see Moguera return with a brand new coat of paint in future stories. Number 22. Mutos.
It's almost 300 feet. It's far bigger than the other one.
But this one doesn't have any wings.
A pair of titans came close to ending the Monsterverse before the shared universe even got started. These powerful parasites were completely obsessed with absorbing radiation and producing offspring. If a human or kaiju stood in their way, the Mutos could easily cut into opponents with their long claws. The males could also outmaneuver opponents by taking to the skies. During their first appearance, their teamwork overwhelmed Godzilla and nearly doomed the world. The Big G was extremely lucky that humans helped him divide and conquer. If the Mutos had stood together, the King of the Monsters would have fallen during their fateful battle. Fans would have also been deprived of one of Godzilla's best all-time kills. Number 21. Godzilla Jr.
何食ってんだか知らねえがこんなにでかくなっちまったのさベビーゴジラが
どうなってんですか二人の関係は
We love all of Big G's children equally. Well, maybe we don't care for the 1998 offspring. Putting them aside, we have to give props to Manila for being the first baby kaiju to steal our hearts. But we ultimately think Godzilla Jr. has the better overall story. It started out as a cute kaiju who endeared itself to others with the help of a mental link. During its third appearance, Junior stepped up to fight the dangerous Destroyer. It scored an impressive win before seemingly perishing in battle. But it takes in a dying Godzilla's radiation, So Junior came back to fight to continue his predecessor's legacy. The story of a monster prince following a king's footsteps is a tale we love to revisit. Number 20. Jet Jaguar. Imagine getting the chance to design your very own monster for the next Godzilla film. What would you draw? In the early 70s, a contest was held for kids to do just that. The winning entry was a monster called Red Alone, which was renamed Jet Jaguar and debuted in 1973's Godzilla vs. Megalon. Mind you, it went through an extensive redesign, coming out looking like the titular hero from another famous Japanese franchise, Ultraman.
I am Ultraman!
Is Jet Jaguar the coolest? No, he's not. But he does arrive armed with his own theme song. And his assistance allows Godzilla to deliver one infamous coup de grace on Megalon, a flying dropkick. Number 19. Megalon. Speaking of Godzilla vs. Megalon, this titular baddie may not be as popular as some of his more famous contemporaries, but he does have his share of fans. Resembling a giant beetle, Megalon is the god of the underground Cetopian civilization. He's not the smartest or toughest Godzilla villain around, and he is soundly beaten by the tag team of Big G and Jet Jaguar. But his hand drills are definitely cool, and he even spits bombs for some reason. Megalon never again appeared in a Godzilla film, but the character did enjoy a more detailed life in television, novels, comic books, and video games. Number 18. Gorosaurus. Compared to the more extravagant monster designs in the franchise, the Gorosaurus is refreshingly down to earth. He's basically an average, everyday dinosaur, a descendant of Allosaurus. Gorosaurus actually debuted in the film King Kong Escapes, but eventually made his way to duke it out with King Ghidorah in the 1968 monster mash Destroy All Monsters. Toho Studios intended the Gorosaurus design as a tribute to the T-Rex that faced off with the original Kong in 1933, and his fighting style is much more basic and realistic. Bites and kicks are Gorosaurus' weapons of choice, although foes shouldn't mistake his lack of superpowers for weakness. Number 17. Battra. Everyone has their dark side, but does this also apply to kaiju? Meet Battra, the dark shadow to Mothra's light. He's an old foe of the Moth Queen, having battled her 12,000 years ago. Defeated, he was sealed away in the North Sea until the events of the 1992 film Godzilla vs. Mothra. Battra's appearance is exactly what you would imagine a bizarro version of Mothra to look like. He's impeccably marked, but with a face only a moth mother could love. His roar is also harsh and unsettling, as opposed to the more lyrical voice of Mothra. He's another Godzilla franchise monster with a one-and-done cinematic legacy, but with Battra only getting the expanded treatment in other forms of media. Number 16. Megaguirus. The film Godzilla vs. Megaguirus is, depending on who you ask, something of a hidden gem from the Millennium era. This is thanks to its surprisingly good effects, as well as the nightmarish appearance of its titular creature. Megaguirus is the mutated queen of the Meganula, a species that first appeared in 1956's Rodan. Her appearance is hideous, incorporating features of both dragonflies and wasps, complete with a powerful tail stinger. Megaguirus is an incredibly quick and agile opponent, with a complex fighting pattern and the ability to summon powerful winds by flapping her wings. She's a product of Godzilla's own DNA as well, making her a doubly dangerous opponent. Number 15. Titanosaurus. The Godzilla franchise has a history of aliens using mind control to make kaiju do their bidding. Titanosaurus was one such creature, an apparently friendly dinosaur that's nevertheless used as a pawn, alongside a new MechaGodzilla, to take down Godzilla. That's not to say Titanosaurus is a pushover, as he's a skilled close-quarters combatant with strong jaws and punches that push even Godzilla to the limit. He also sports a cool punk rock fin on his head, and is able to whip up huge waves or gusts of wind with his powerful tail. Although Terror of Mechagodzilla remains his only major appearance, the impact of Titanosaurus is still remembered fondly by fans of the Showa-era films. Number 14. Baragon. The next monster on our list is proof that some kaiju are actually more famous outside of the Godzilla universe. Baragon receives much more focus in the 1965 film Frankenstein Conquers the World, where he appears as the main antagonist. Elsewhere, the small but hardy horned dino dog usually plays second fiddle in his battles alongside and against Godzilla. This isn't to say that Baragon doesn't have plenty of admirers, however, thanks to his spunky personality and comparatively diminutive stature. We'll say it, Baragon is just kind of, well, cute, and we are always rooting for him when he appears in the Godzilla franchise. Number 13. King Caesar. Speaking of monsters that resemble man's best friend, the next monster on our list may be cute and furry, but don't take this royal kaiju guardian for granted. King Caesar aids Godzilla in his battle against MechaGodzilla, summoned into action by his own nifty theme song. Caesar is considerably more agile than other burly monsters in the Godzillaverse, making him adept at physical combat. This makes up for his lack of major projectile weapons, although he can bounce back energy beams with his eye. In the TV show Godzilla Island, he can also fire an electrical beam for long-range attacks. Number 12. Orga. Offering further proof that you just shouldn't mess with nature, Orga was an attempt by aliens to absorb Godzilla's DNA. The result was this unstable and mutated abomination, a huge, somewhat unfinished clone of the G-Man with a hunched gait and huge claws. It's this size that makes Orga such a threat to Godzilla, as he actually attempts to swallow the big guy whole in yet another futile attempt at absorption. This ultimately proves to be his undoing, however, as Godzilla actually lets him attempt it before blasting him from within with an atomic blast. Number 11. King Kong. How could we not mention Godzilla's American counterpart, the mighty King Kong? Arguably the second most popular giant monster in history, Kong may not match Godzilla when it comes to size or strength, but he more than makes up for it with intelligence and cunning. Kong is just a natural fighter, able to adapt in combat and utilize tools to get the job done. He knows when he's at a disadvantage, and this aids him not only in his own films, but also his famous 1962 battle with Godzilla. Now, with a fresh 2021 rematch and a popular modern film franchise of his own, This king of the jungle stands even taller as one of the toughest giant monsters to ever walk the earth. Number 10. SpaceGodzilla. Sure, the name might not be particularly inventive, but SpaceGodzilla is nevertheless a memorable kaiju from the Big G universe. This impressively designed beast is an alien clone of the original Godzilla, and boasts bonus powers such as psychic abilities and an energy shield that can reflect back Godzilla's fearsome atomic breath. SpaceGodzilla proves to be a more than capable foe for Big G, and even kidnaps, or is that kaiju naps, Godzilla's son, imprisoning him in a crystal cage. Sure, he may not have the big name recognition of a Rodan or Mothra, but SpaceGodzilla is a relatively recent Godzilla villain with plenty of personality. Number 9. Ghidorah. Fans are split as to whether or not 1971's Godzilla vs. the Smog Monster, also known as Godzilla vs. Ghidorah, is one of the best or worst films in the franchise. All can agree, however, that it's certainly one of the weirdest. The film is a heady trip of psychedelic visuals, featuring an environmentalist message and one of the strangest antagonists Big G has ever faced. The titular smog monster, named Ghidorah, is a continually evolving anthropomorphic creature of pollution and sludge that poisons Godzilla with toxins. The beast is pretty disgusting across all its different forms, and poses a suitable challenge for Godzilla in their final battle. Sadly, Ghidorah didn't come back for future films in the franchise, other than a small cameo in Godzilla Final Wars. Number 8. Anguirus. Godzilla doesn't always play well with others, but there's one kaiju that's been a friend to him more often than most: Anguirus. This take on an ankylosaurus actually served as Godzilla's first ever monster opponent in the franchise's second film, Godzilla Raids Again. But since then, Big G and a new Anguirus seem to have patched up their past differences. This four-legged fighter makes up for his lack of ranged weapons with intelligence, speed, and regenerative abilities. Anguirus also has 5 brains, using them to increase his reaction speed during battle. Anguirus can bite, smash, and even roll into a critter-esque ball of destruction, making him the kind of kaiju you definitely want on your side. Number 7. Destroyer. The 1995 film Godzilla vs. Destroyer made headlines worldwide when Toho announced that they were actually going to kill off Godzilla. The demonic Destroyer is actually a colony of microscopic crustaceans, mutated by the oxygen destroyer that killed Godzilla in the original 1954 film. Able to take on different forms, he pushes both Godzilla and his newly evolved son to the absolute limit in their encounters. He's only destroyed when Godzilla's heart goes into nuclear meltdown. Destroyer is somewhat unique on this list, as he's one of the few kaiju that seems to relish in the destruction he creates. This is reflected in his hideous scowl and his surprisingly high-pitched, shrill death roar. Ugh, it still gives us chills. Number 6. Gigan. Gigan has been a fan-favorite Godzilla monster for years, and honestly, can you blame us? The cyborg's design is the product of complete creative overkill, and that's why we love it. He's got hooks for hands, and sometimes chainsaws, a buzzsaw on his stomach, and he even rocks a cool visor. Beyond this, however, Gigan also is proven to be a perennial pain in the ass whenever he squares off with Godzilla. It could be the space monster's tough exterior, impressive tactical abilities, or his dogged persistence. But this creature was always a threat, even making Godzilla bleed for the first time on screen. It is always a party when Gigan shows up. Number 5. Biollante. Time seems to have been kind to 1989's Godzilla vs. Biollante, with more and more fans appreciating this kaiju's original and tragic origin story. Biollante is the result of DNA splicing between Godzilla cells, a rose, and the DNA of one Erika Shiragami. Erika was the daughter of biological scientist Genichiro Shiragami, who was the victim of a terrorist bombing while working in her lab. Biollante retains uniquely feminine features in her character design, both in rose form and in its crocodilian final form. She also has incredible healing abilities, carnivorous tendrils, and an acidic spit projectile with extremely corrosive properties. It's truly a shame she didn't return for more cinematic outings, although Biollante has lived on in other forms of Godzilla media. Number 4. Rodan.
You got a catchy name for this one?
Local legends call it Rodan.
This irradiated pteranodon is one of the most enduring monsters in the Godzilla universe.
Yes, that's it. The bird that hangs from the air.
Look at that wing spread!
Rodan debuted in his own film back in 1956, along with a female mate. He first entered the Godzilla franchise in 1964 with Ghidorah the three-headed monster, and has since appeared in numerous others right up to the present day. Rodan's staying power is likely due to his ultra-cool design as an agile winged assassin, who eventually becomes even more powerful after transforming into Fire Rodan. Godzilla and Rodan seem to butt heads quite often, although the pair can occasionally be convinced to team up against a greater threat. That's smart, because facing the supersonic winds of Rodan head-on is not a good time. Number 3. MechaGodzilla. Sometimes you just gotta fight Godzilla with Godzilla. This giant monster is one of the most stubborn and resilient enemies Godzilla has ever faced, to the point where Big G has almost always needed backup to take it down. MechaGodzilla has something of a convoluted history, sometimes being built by aliens and sometimes by humans. The latter includes Kiryu, the MechaGodzilla created with the bones of the original 1954 Godzilla, and connected to that Godzilla's spirit. The one constant throughout it all is MechaGodzilla's absolute badassery in combat, thanks to projectile missiles, energy beams, and its nearly impenetrable exterior. This thing is an armada all on its own, and always a challenge. Number 2. Mothra. She starred in her own film debut, Godzilla entries, and her own spin-off series. She's Mothra and she's ready to rumble. Mothra is the queen bee, or make that moth, of the Godzilla universe, a creature of beauty that's also immensely powerful. Depending on the film, she's armed with lightning, incapacitating silk threads, strong mandibles, and in Godzilla King of the Monsters, a single deadly stinger. Mothra is one of the few kaiju that's presented as heroic, causing destruction only when provoked, such as when her priestesses, the Shobijin, are kidnapped. Speaking of the Shobijin, fans likely have fond memories of Mothra's theme song that's used to summon her in the films. Mothra is a true original. Number 1. King Ghidorah. Since his debut in 1964, King Ghidorah's origin story has changed several times. But whether you know him as a three-headed space dragon, an interdimensional god, or a genetically engineered monster, he is a fearsome foe and a worthy arch-nemesis for Godzilla. One of his biggest claims to fame is that he destroyed an entire civilization on Venus. Like MechaGodzilla, Ghidorah seldom loses a fight unless the numbers are stacked against him. And that is in no small part thanks to his devastating gravity beams and triple head attacks. Honestly, just look at him. From the golden scales to the regal horns on his heads, we know a king when we see one.
Long live the king.
Who's your favorite Godzilla Titan? Let us know in the comments below.
信じられん。あれほど精巧に作ったメカゴジラが負けるとは。
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.